As I was pointing my gun at the bank worker, asking her to fill my bag with money, I heard a ticking sound. I looked around nervously. Then I shouted at her to hurry up. And that's when I caught her looking at my gun, then looking back at me. I started sweating. I was very anxious. However, things got worse when I noticed where the ticking sound came from. It was my gun. It was dripping water. Busted. That's what I thought. At that moment, I realized that the employee must have noticed it, and that's why she was looking at me with that weird look. I could feel the tension in the air while looking around. I could tell people around me were afraid, and honestly, so was I. I yelled at the worker to give me the bag while still pointing the gun at her. This time, I was sure she noticed that my gun was fake. Yet, to my surprise, she threw the bag in my direction and whispered in a low voice, "Run." I froze for a moment. What? Why? I thought to myself, yet I saw her rolling her eyes toward the back door as if she was giving me directions where to go. Without having a second thought, I grabbed my bag and ran as fast as possible. You're probably as confused as I was. Well, if you want to know what happened next, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Otherwise, my water gun will appear in your dreams. I was hiding my car on the other side of the building. I ran towards it and managed to get out of there without anyone noticing me. I drove to an old garage where I was hiding another car. I changed my clothes, transferred the bag of money to the new car, and went back to the bank I robbed. You might think that I'm crazy, but what the worker did was crazier. I couldn't risk letting her go, so I came back planning to kidnap her. Yes, you heard it right. I had to go that far because I had no choice. It was either jail or committing another sin. Who knows what she might say to the police? I waited until the mess was calmed and saw her walking out of the bank. I followed her silently and carefully until we arrived at a parking lot underground. I was about to make my move when I suddenly heard her voice saying, "You don't have to do it. I'll come with you." She turned in my direction as I was staring in shock. How did you know? Who are you?" She replied, "We don't have time. Where's the bag?" I said, "We? No, there is no we. Just tell me who the hell are you and what do you want?" She came closer to me. She wasn't afraid at all, which made me terrified. And what she said next made me lose my mind. She explained that there's a GPS tracker in my bag, and as soon as I open the bag, it'll work. She knows exactly where it is and she can destroy it. If not, the police will track me down and arrest me. I was speechless. I asked her why she was helping me while handing her the bag when she said 50%. What? I replied shocked. I want half the money. I'm risking my life, my future. I'm helping you. You need me. And besides, I just saved you from making another mistake by kidnapping me. Honestly, she's right. If it wasn't for her, I would have been rotting in jail right now. But 50% is a lot. I can't promise her something like that. I remained silent for a few seconds. I just couldn't say no because she might expose me. So I just answered, "Deal." And she actually destroyed the GPS into small pieces. She just did it. I mean, how could she trust me that fast? I was so curious and puzzled about that girl. I mean, I know she asked for half of the money, but why? Why is she doing such a thing? I knew there was something behind what happened because no one would risk their life for no reason. I know I did it because of a strong reason. You see, for all my life, I've been a poor kid. Though it didn't bother me at first, life had to prove me wrong. At first, money didn't mean anything to me. I saw how rich children were treated, and I definitely didn't want to be treated the same way. I had my own freedom. I was able to appreciate the simplest things in life and value everything I had. Until one day, I desperately wished to be one of those kids. My father fell sickbed, and I stood there unable to help. I worked day and night, but still didn't get enough money to afford his surgery, and he needed it as fast as possible. I'm not trying to justify what I've done, but I decided to rob a bank with a fake gun. Now, you might wonder why a fake gun, and that I could have been caught. Well, true. My plan was too risky, but I had no other choice. When I decided to rob the bank, I had two options, either to run away or to get caught. If I managed to run away, I would pay for my father's surgery and donate what's left to charity, because my intentions were good and I only wanted to help my father. If I got caught, I would spend some time in jail convincing myself that I've tried every possible way to help him. Yet, fortune wasn't on my side, and I'll be able to eat and sleep for free for a while. I just got tired from all the double shifts I had. I know it sounds silly. However, sometimes you just do things without thinking about the consequences, and after that, you realize how dumb you were. I bet it's happened at least once to each one of us. But what I didn't expect was Diana's interference and her turning my plan upside down. That girl is hiding something. She helped me for a reason, and I wanted to know why. We drove for what seemed like 5 hours until we arrived at my secret place. I lived in a small, abandoned caravan in the middle of the woods. At first, I hesitated whether to expose my secret home to her or not. However, I had no choice. I had to trust that mysterious girl. When we arrived there, I showed her around, and she seemed happy. She looked kind of cute while smiling. I tried to get some answers out of her, yet she was stubborn. She said, "I bet your reason is stronger than mine. I mean, having the guts to rob a bank with a water gun?" While grinning at me. I got up to make us some coffee while thinking of a way to get rid of her when I suddenly got a phone call. Don't worry, I don't have a smartphone, which could easily get me arrested. It was a phone that only my dad had its number. It was a phone for emergencies. My dad's case got worse. He told me that he saw my face on the news. I felt ashamed to hear his crying voice blaming himself over the phone, yet I assured him that I'll be fine. However, while apologizing to him, I heard someone screaming. It was a nurse calling the doctor saying that the patient's condition had gotten worse and he needed a doctor immediately. I heard the machine's voices over the phone and I couldn't do anything. I stood there, waiting patiently, crying and calling his name, hoping that he'll be okay. At that moment, I realized how bad I messed up. I knew that he needed the surgery sooner than ever, but my problem was how to get to the hospital and pay the money. I'm a wanted man. As I went back and forth, biting my nails out of stress, I heard Diana saying, "I'll do it." I stared at her shockingly, and then she said, "I want to be part of your plan. I can help you, and I'm sure that you need my help. Trust me, you have nothing to lose after all." I was extremely confused. Why? Why would you risk your life even more? I asked, when she interrupted me saying, "But you have to trust me and stop asking questions, and I'll tell you everything when I'm ready." I had no choice but to agree. I told her my story and how I had to do the whole thing because of my father's surgery. While talking, I noticed that she had been trying hard to hold her tears from falling down on her rosy cheeks. I didn't know how to react. I mean, she seemed like a tough girl, yet fragile at the same time, mysterious, yet empathetic. She left me confused, not knowing what to say or how to react. It's a feeling that I can't even describe in words. She interrupted my chain of thoughts by saying, "Leave it to me. I'll get the money to your father." I doubted her abilities at the beginning. However, that Wonder Girl was able to save my father. She managed to pay for the surgery, and he was rescued. She left him a note from me saying that I won't be able to see him for a while and left him a bunch of cash. Since that day, both of us continued our run without asking any questions. Living with her was not bad after all. She was a great partner. But a couple of months later, many things have changed. The first thing is that I fell for Diana. I liked her and wanted to date her. However, what kept me from doing that was the second thing I discovered. During our run together, I saw her change. She got fatter almost every day and she had gone through plenty of physical changes. At first, she said that she broke her diet and she's getting insanely fatter from the unhealthy food we were eating. Yet, when her belly bump appeared, it was hard to deny the fact that she might be pregnant. Turns out, she was. She was finally able to speak and share her story with me. She told me that she lived with her parents and they are originally from another country. Therefore, they have different habits and traditions. For instance, she can't live on her own until she gets married, and she can't get pregnant without getting married first, but it happened. As soon as her boyfriend found out, he called her bad names and accused her of cheating. He refused to confess that he was the father of her child. She was desperate and terrified. She had no idea how to face her parents, and abortion costs a fortune. Plus, to her, having an abortion is a bad solution. That day, while she was at work, she felt like having a nervous breakdown. She was pressured and had no idea what to do with her life. Until suddenly, she heard my voice shouting at her to give me the money. Though it should have been a terrifying moment, to her, it was a saving grace. Somehow, she saw through my eyes that I'm not a bad person. And when the gun started to drop water, she was certain that I had a good reason to do what I was doing. Without thinking, she helped me, thinking that she could take half of the money and start her own life. I was shocked by her story, and I felt pity for her. I asked her how she knew that I would survive and come back to her. I mean, she's pregnant and she's risking both her life and her child's. And what she told me next made my mind blow. She said that when she saw me, the idea of escaping came to her mind. She was 100% sure that her parents won't accept her baby and they will turn her life into hell. She was a disgrace to them. Therefore, she decided to take any decision that doesn't include living in their house. When she thought about helping me, she had two options: either to get half of the money or to call the police and arrest both of us. She added that life in jail would be better for her, and at least she'll be living on her own. My jaw dropped at that moment. Though it wasn't the right time for this, I felt like I was deeply in love with her and wanted to kiss her. We both had the same thoughts, and life wasn't completely fair to us. I felt as if destiny had brought us together, and that I found my other half. Suddenly, I found myself wiping her tears with my hands and getting closer to her. She looked deep into my eyes, and then shyly looked down, blushing. I lifted her chin up, and we kissed. To my surprise, she kissed me back. She liked me back. I felt victorious at that moment and wanted nothing more than that. Days went by and everything went great until Diana's condition got worse and she needed a hospital. Her water broke and she was screaming out of pain. We survived all this time by sneaking around and paying children or homeless people to get us supplies. But now I can't do that. I can't just leave Diana alone in this situation. She told me that she'll be fine, yet she wasn't able to finish her sentence. She passed out. I was in a huge dilemma about what I should do. It's like my father's situation all over again, but this time it's either jail or death. I couldn't risk her life. I started to love mine as well, and I'm not ready to give up on it and go to jail. But if I didn't, she may be in a bad situation, or worse, she might die. That's when I decided to finally drive her to the hospital. However, when I arrived, I did the worst thing ever. I put her on the front door and ran away. I left her there on the cold ground while the nurses were running towards her. With tears in my eyes, I drove away. Yes, I was a coward. I left her there alone. Days passed and I felt suffocated. For the first time in my life, I had nightmares. The image of Diana laying on the ground, helpless, kept repeating itself through my mind. I started screaming and breaking things. I just wanted to get it out of my head. I even bought medicine to get some sleep. Since that day, my life turned to an absolute hell. I had black circles and my face was pale all the time. And what's worse is that each time I looked in the mirror, I hated myself. That's when I finally made my decision. But before making any move, I went to visit my father. I disguised myself and snuck into his room in the hospital. When he saw me, it was as if he saw a ghost. I went to his arms and cried. I told him my story, and what he said next broke my heart into a million pieces. I know you justified your robbery to save me, and I'm extremely guilty, yet thankful for what you have done. You sacrificed your life to save mine, though it should be the opposite. I know with time you might forget about robbing the bank or leaving Diana behind, but you will regret it for all of your life. And what you'll regret the most is not saying goodbye to Diana. That was my father's advice. I walked out of the hospital that night with a strange feeling in my stomach, and I decided to do what I thought was right. A few months had passed, and I was standing in front of the judge in the court. My hands were cuffed, and I saw my son with Diana through the crowd. She was sitting next to my father, waiting for the final verdict. I was accused of robbery and kidnapping a bank worker. Yet, because of my good intentions and saving her life, my sentence was reduced. Diana smiled and waved from her seat. The ring I put on her hand was shining. I winked at her while heading inside with a police officer.